Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Burnout Podcast. My name is Skip O, and I'd like to talk to you about our sponsor today, Throttle and Thrive. You can go to throttleandthrive.com and check out what they got to offer. It's a 6-bed facility for men. In the future, they're working on one for women, but Siobhan is the CEO. Give her a call. Check out the place, do a virtual meeting, or go there, visit if you're there in California. Remember, that's throttleandthrive.com. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Burnout Podcast. My name is Skip O, and I am your host. Our guest host today is Armando. Armando, thank you for coming on.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks for coming on. And we got our guest today. It's Daniel Norris. Daniel's all the way out from Maryland. Is that where you're from, Daniel?
Yes, sir. Southern Maryland, to be exact. St. Mary's County.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for being on here. And I'd like to thank our sponsor, Throttle and Thrive. You can go to throttleandthrive.com. It's a 6-bed facility for first responders, 6-bed facility for first responders that has PTSD or addiction issues. Siobhan would proudly come up and connect with you at the airport if you need to get out there. So remember, throttleandthrive.com. But we're here today with Daniel. Daniel reached out to me, and I was in England at the time doing a little hike across England for first responders. And I asked him to get a hold of me when we got back, and he did. So Daniel, man, thank you for being responsible enough to get back to me, and thank you for being willing to share a little bit of your story, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I've listened to a few episodes of your podcast so far, and I absolutely love it. Heard about it through my rescue squad, and now I'm kind of hooked and wanted to be able to support you and your cause any way I can.
Man, I appreciate you coming on. Before we get started, why don't you give a little, like the bio you said, a little bit of bio of your background, and we'll get into questions.
Oh, okay. So I'm 37 years old, born and raised in Southern Maryland. Went right into the Marine Corps Reserve straight out of high school in 2006. Served as a 1371 Combat Engineer. While I was still in the Marines, I did not do any combat tours, thank God. Have enough issues in my head and whatnot without that added to it. Also joined up with local EMS here in St. Mary's County in about 2010 timeframe. So I'm just shy of 14 years of service. And my service in EMS is actually where I have endured most of my mental and emotional, struggles, such as PTSD. I was most recently diagnosed with that.
Well, like I said earlier, we'll just go into it however far deep you want to. We won't try to trigger anybody that's out there listening, but we're really raw here. We talk about emotions. We talk of some stuff that might trigger some listeners, but if that triggers you, make sure you got peer support in your area. If not, jump on the email, give us an email. We'll get on an emergency Zoom meeting with you. But Daniel, we all grow up. We want to be Superman. We want to be Batman or Robin or whatever. When you grew up and you wanted to be in the military or wanted to be a first responder, was there anybody that inspired you to do that?
Oh, man, you're asking me to rewind the tapes a good bit there. I don't really have any immediate family that were Marines or even military. I've got a lot of aunts, uncles, grandparents that did Army, Navy, what have you. I honestly don't know if there was any specific individual that inspired me to do any of it. I always had a whole lot of respect for our troops, especially as a kid. Anytime I'd see them at like McDonald's, if I'm out at McDonald's or whatever, I'd go up and like thank them and try to shake their hand and talk to them or whatever. And then I guess in a way I kind of inspired myself because of that. I honestly don't know how to answer that one. I do have one uncle that is a Charles County first responder. He was a paramedic for a good while. I'm assuming he still is. And now he's actually with the hazmat team out there. And I actually just heard one of your episodes earlier today that you were just with a Charles County medic, if I remember correctly.
I tell you, it's we did just a lot of good people out there that we have guests. But one thing I learned from all the guests that we have that they got the heart for service. Whether it's military, police, fire, they care about people and they want to help people. And Armando, can you relate with that as far as getting into the Marines or getting into some of the stuff that you've done here lately?
Yeah. So I think that the growing up, my dad's a firefighter. He's been on the job for 27, 28 years, a long time now. And growing up and seeing that, I think that there was always something I wanted to do. And, when you're pushed to go and do it, and then you go and do it for a living, and getting out of the Marine Corps for a long time, I didn't have that I wasn't able to bridge the gap. And I lost that purpose. And now working with Skip, working at the House of Hope, in that capacity, helping other first responders, other veterans, it gives me that purpose again. It's just giving back in a very different way. And so I like to carry that, the spirit of Corps, spirit with me, and it's good stuff.
Cool. Daniel, can you relate with any of that?
A little bit. I definitely take a great sense of pride everywhere I go. And I definitely want to say the Marine Corps kicked me in the tail big time on that one and instilled that in me like no tomorrow. Even my wife, we've been married for just over 3 years. She's still trying to comprehend and grasp the military mentality that never leaves us. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, hey, look, there's no on-off switch that was installed in us at boot camp. If there was, trust me, I would turn it off in a heartbeat with some of this stuff. Like I march everywhere. I don't walk. Usually anywhere from 15 minutes to more early anywhere I go. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I can't help it. I had a beat in my head for so long, got gunny timed. I'm sure Armando knows what that means. So yeah, it's so much of the military mentality that is just absolutely 100% stuck with me. And part of me wants to leave some of it behind. And then part of me is like, no, you know what? It makes me who I am. Makes me a better man, better person, helps me serve in my community because of some of the stuff that I do know and that I have been through. So
going a little bit forward, a little past the military, and it might kind of go into each other, but when you got your EMT certification or when you got on the ambulance service or fire department, what was that like the first 6 months?
Oh man, now you're really asking to rewind some tapes. I honestly have a horrible memory. I think a lot of it is due to heavy drinking, probably TBI here and there, maybe, and just other issues that have contributed to that poor memory. I started out in the local firehouse, and I couldn't stand it. I got hazed a lot. Almost every single time I was up there, I'd see cadets that would just be sitting around playing video games or whatever, doing whatever they want. Yet they would target me and ask me to do these ridiculous tasks, haze me, whatever. And I got tired of it. And I was actually volunteering at their carnival one day, and EMS had a call at the carnival. None of the firefighters wanted to help out. So I jumped on, and after that, I was hooked on the EMS life, I guess is the best way to put it. So then I joined with the local EMS department and saw a lot. Dealt with a lot of cliquish, childish high school kind of stuff I dealt with at the first rescue squad I joined up. They put me through my EMT class, and then I guess the rest is history. I've kind of been here and there with other departments, and I'm actually currently withdrawing my membership from the department I recently joined up with, and I'm actually going to surrender my card, just shy of 14 years of service.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. But I think too, though, change is good. And I think I don't know about you guys, I got, when I struggled, also too, I was diagnosed with PTSD, PTSI, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it what I know. Other people call it something different. Go for it. That's okay. But, I used to think putting up the white flag surrender, I lost. If I had to give up on something, I thought, man, I don't like that. But what I've learned and what I was educated in is it's not giving up. It's just moving forward to something else. Is that what you're going to do now, is move forward to something else?
Pretty much. I'm involved in like a plethora of volunteer activities, whether it be at church, what have you. Travis Manion Foundation, I just joined up with them as a mentor. So I'm kind of going to plug some of those other holes that I've kind of opened up with some of that servanthood, if you will. I'm a member of the Red Cross, Team Rubicon, America's Mighty Warriors. I now also play rugby, and I'm actually the recruitment officer for my rugby club. So hunting seasons have just rolled into play. So yeah, my schedule's pretty packed. I love hunting. Recently just got invited out on a pheasant hunting out in South Dakota from a veteran related organization, but your boy ain't got that kind of flight money and whatnot. So had to turn that one down.
Well, I tell you, that's good that you're going into something good and stuff. So like you alluded earlier that you did some heavy drinking. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
What was the cause of that? If you mind sharing, like I said, whatever you're willing to share.
Man. So I had a little bit of a rough upbringing, in my personal opinion, from looking at it and such. Abusive home, mentally abused, emotionally and all that good stuff. And had a lot of alcoholism in the family. Almost always saw everybody drinking with the exception of my parents and my brother. I don't think I ever really saw them drink at all, but I ended up picking up the habit when I was 17. I actually worked at a local liquor store as a stocker and would sometimes drink at work, believe it or not. And it just kind of skyrocketed from there. Of course, joining the Marine Corps didn't help. Try to even remotely stray away from that habit. It just made it 1,000 times worse for me. I used to go to parties and stuff and get blackout drunk. Woke up in the hospital one time, didn't have any idea whatsoever what had happened. Didn't even know it was me as the patient in the hospital until I felt the burning pain below the belt. And yeah, it was not a good experience. They literally said I should have died that day alone from my alcohol intoxication levels and such. So,
well, how you doing with that now? You got that under control?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually, I want to say almost 6 years sober, give or take. I think June next year, 6 years on the dot. So
that's cool, man. I tell you, February, and I'm not trying to one up you. February 7th of 2000 was the last time I took a drink. It was at 7:39 on a Monday, but I quit 1,000 times beforehand.
That's like smoking. I would quit smoking every time I ran out of money.
Hey, Martin, can you relate to me that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you talk about it getting worse when you join the military. I mean, that's the mentality, right? I was told when I was, first enlisting, you find God, you find a bar. It's one of the two. And the majority of us, I think we all find a bar.
Yeah, I kind of did both, which obviously, if you're religious at all, can't serve two masters. You got to choose one or the other. So, I mean, it took a long time for me to get my head out of my tail and try to get away from alcohol. I mean, there were probably more than a good handful of times I probably should have died because of alcohol levels and whatnot. So, I mean, I'm not proud of it by any means. Sometimes I'll tell the stories and laugh about it. And that's just my personality. I like to laugh a lot, no matter what the scenario is. Even in the Marines, I could have a gunny 2 inches from my nose and tearing into me, and I'm going to sit there and laugh like a dummy. So, I mean, of course, that didn't go well. But we're fine.
Well, I tell you, Dan, what I hear from you and from your story, you got a purpose now. You can share your brokenness with somebody, and you can open the door for them to walk through, whether it's sobriety, spiritual awakening for somebody. It's not about religion or sect. It's about making changes in our life. And it sounds like those situations, you're making changes in your life, and it sounds like, to me, you're in a pretty good place. That's just me thinking.
I'm trying to be. I'm getting there more and more every day, I believe. Past year and a half, it's been an absolute challenge for me. Lost 4 family members early last year, 2 friends last year, and then literally just lost my last remaining grandparent this past Friday. So a lot of that's been on my mind and on my heart, pretty heavy the past year and a half. I'm just doing the best I can to keep my head above water. I got an amazing support system in my life now, so it's been a struggle to try to maintain that sobriety, let me tell you. I worked in the local school system for a while, and COVID hit. So as we all know, that flipped the entire world upside down. And I keep telling everybody I chose the worst possible time to sit there and try to go sober. COVID hitting, wedding planning, getting married, all that. Yeah, I chose the dumbest time to start sobriety. It was a challenge and a half.
Look, I tell you, look now, though. Look where you came from. All the struggles you had and everything, and you weathered the storm. You stayed in the eye, and you're here today to talk about it. I'm gonna hit you up for something. I heard you say you like marching. Is that what I'm hearing?
I do.
You like walking?
Almost every September 11th, I will do my own little memorial ruck through my town, carrying the flag, what have you. Last year, I actually carried my Bluetooth speaker and was jamming all kinds of patriotic music and such. Actually had police interaction because somebody called me in as suspicious, which is mind-blowing because I've been doing it for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And the cop was like, "Hey, man, you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Oh, we had somebody call you in as suspicious." And I'm just like, what? What's suspicious about me carrying a flag, man? It's 9/11. I do this every single year. And as soon as I said that, he was like, "Oh, man, thank you so much for what you're doing with that, blah, blah, blah. Good on you. There's nothing suspicious, man. Just be safe." So
It sounds like you like marching a little bit and like hiking and stuff. Do you do any long hikes? Any?
I don't. There's not too many places around my area to hike. I would love to get into it. I'd absolutely love nature. That's my Zen zone or peace zone or whatever you want to call it, whether it's in the woods, on the water, whatever. That is my 100% go-to place for absolute peace.
Well, I just, since you do like hiking and there's no place around you, what about Scotland next year, a 91-mile hike with us?
You might not get me to come back home. I'm actually part Scottish and Irish.
I tell you what, we did that.
Plus both if I went.
Well, July 19th through the 26th. We'll talk more after the podcast.
Absolutely.
I want to invite you to come along with us. And what we try to do a little fundraising to offset some cost for us. And we'll go into all that too. I'm trying to get everybody I can. We did that 200-mile hike here across England, and now we're going to do to Scotland next year. It's called the Walk Out of the Darkness, and we want you leading it. We want you leading us.
Whoa, okay. I wasn't expecting that to come out of this podcast. By the way, I'm totally mind blown for you doing that walk, for the Out of the Darkness walk. I've been a huge supporter in my area of it for like the past few years, either voluntarily taking photographs and supplying them to them. Man, what else have I done down there? I'm trying to rerun the tapes. I set up a table with Mission 22, I think last year or the year before, down there to gain support for Mission 22 as well. They've had me participate in what is I'm probably going to mess up the name. I don't remember the little ceremony where they have you pour like a respective color of sand in the bowl or whatever.
Yeah.
You have
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm heavily involved in that. So hats off to you. I don't know if I could ever do a hike like that. That's intense, man.
And we don't do it all way. You go so many miles a day. I know you can do it. I know. I no doubt in my mind Armando could do it. We just got to get him on a plane.
How about that, man? I'm too tired.
Armando's so busy because he's resting up. We got a 12-mile walk that some of us are going to this Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's for recovery. You walk for each step, the first step, the second step, the third step, and do that this Saturday. But I am dead serious. And you can ask Armando, anybody knows me. When I say something, I mean it. Daniel, if you come with us, if we can work it out, your wife or you come, we'll talk more in detail about it, but be open-minded about it if you would.
I'm definitely going to be open-minded about that one. I'm open-minded that I might not come back to the U.S. if I go. I'm definitely wearing my kilt, just to give you a heads up. I am wearing my kilt. I'll probably bring all three of them. Hope you don't mind.
Nope, I don't mind. Now, with kilt, the true way to wear a kilt. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to make anybody jealous or anything, so I'm going to wear the non-traditional.
I tell you, we were at St. B's getting ready to start our walk, and we're raising money the night before, and there's a guy, he was in the military. His name was Pete. Well, we called him Animal Pete. I just came up with that. Well, that's what they called him in the military. Well, he's Scottish. So we're running to the beach. I said, it's freezing cold out. The wind's blowing. So I said, okay, I got on the Facebook. I said, hey, guys, I'm going to strip down my shorts. I'm going to run and jump in the ocean if you guys give us some money for whatever. And people started giving money. And Pete said, if you give $200 more, I'll run there too, and I'll take off everything. I thought he was kidding. So we're running to the beach. There's nobody on the beach. It's night, and we got running away. All of a sudden, we're running. I'm in front of him. And he's humming the Chariots of Fire. And all of a sudden, we get to the ocean, get ready to go in. I turn around. He's peeled off everything. And I was like, oh, he's serious. But I tell you, it was so much fun to do the spur of the moment. Now, when I look, I shouldn't have looked back. It's a visual. I shouldn't have seen. I felt very inferior, very, very inferior. But, we have a good time. I've met a whole lot of people. But, man, I tell you what, Daniel, what I've learned on a journey of this life, we share our brokenness with people. You've got a good story. Somebody there needs to hear your story, or you got a good ear. Somebody needs to tell their story. So if that's a possibility, we'll keep in contact for the next until up to that walk. So what I see how we can do it, not how we can't do it. I don't look that way. That's not how I work. And I see that you can do it. You're more than a conqueror, and you got a good stories to share with people. I don't know, Wanda, what do you think? I think he's got a good attitude.
I think the attitude's there. Obviously, it's a commitment, no doubt. But it's one of those things that I think that if your heart's in it, which it seems to be, man, you go for it. And Skip's exactly right. Your experience, your strength nowadays, that's going to help somebody, even if it only helps one person. That's all that matters. And it's that that service mentality. That just giving back, even if it's only to one person, is where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I try to live my life. That impact one person, that's all that matters, because obviously they're going to probably impact somebody, and then so on and so forth. The changes hopefully never breaks.
Hey, Daniel, what's something that you can kind of think about, whether it happened a while ago, that you can remember that this inspired you, impact your life, about living your life a certain way? Is there something or somebody that happened in your life that helped you do that?
Oh, wow. That is a really good question. There's probably more moments than I can probably ever think of, and probably more people than I can honestly just sit here and think of on a whim that have inspired me to do that. Obviously, being involved in some of the organizations I have, hearing some of the stories of how those organizations were created has inspired the heck out of me. America's Mighty Warriors, Mark Lee, was one of the first SEALs ever killed over in the war on terrorism. And hearing him write that letter back to his mom, being like, hey, if we all just shared a random act of kindness, the world would be a much better place. That hit me like a ton of bricks, obviously in a really good way, because I'm always trying to do that. I've been one of those knuckleheads that if I see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire, I don't care where it is, I don't care what time of day it is, I'm gonna stop and help. And I've had people be like, hey, what if they're trying to kill you or whatever? And I'm like, you know what? So be it. I'm doing what I find in my heart and my moral obligation to do right. If I die doing what I think is right, then whatever, that's how I'm meant to go out. Can't do nothing about it.
Man, that's good. Armando, you got any other questions for Daniel before I go into a couple of things and close this?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm, a little bit curious about, and it's maybe a little more in-depth question, is do you have any fear of walking away from what you've been doing the last 14 years?
I don't know that I have any fear. I walked away for a few months a couple of years ago, and the only feeling I could really describe or anything was that I felt like I know what retired folks feel like. That they're doing something that they've known for so long and whatnot, that they don't know what they're going to do afterwards. And to some degree, I feel like that's going to come back into play. But I already know I've got so many other things that I'm devoting myself and my time and whatnot into it. I'm not even worried about it. There's a lot going into my decision of stepping away. For one, I just quite frankly have not had the time in the past few months to even go put in 1 hour down at the rescue squad. And that's not right for me to leave them hanging, in my opinion. So I just came to the decision, I want to say it was literally last week, I withdrew my membership from down there. It's a little bit of a tough decision because I've really enjoyed that department. Very low drama, very low key, whole 9 yards. However, it was also an extremely slow department. I've been there maybe 2.5 years, and I think I've only run maybe 10 calls. So that kind of drives me insane because I have ADHD and all that other jazz. If I'm just sitting there doing nothing, as Armando could probably verify, Marines do a lot of dumb crap when they're bored. So that's never good to just have me idle and bored.
I'm glad to hear that. You got all these other organizations you're with. If you ever get bored, we got stuff for you to do here at the Burnout Network. Just FYI.
I'm more than happy to help out however I can, man. Like I said at the beginning, I support the heck out of this. I think what you're doing absolutely 100% needs to be done. It's kind of like with veteran stories. Like if we let their stories die with them, we don't get to hear all of it. We don't get to pass it on so people can learn from it and just cherish those memories, moments, what have you. Like I've always valued that. And I feel like with you, it's kind of the same scenario. If we as first responders and such don't get on here and share our stories, we're never going to potentially make an impact and help somebody else that needs the same help we did. But we're also going to let our stories die with us. And that's just stupid, in my opinion.
Sure. Tell you, for you to get on here and share your story takes courage. A lot of people, they got fear of what people are going to think, or they're thinking if they share their weakness or share their weakness, they are weak. And that's just not true. That's where you gain your strength back, is getting rid of that stuff, whatever it is. But Daniel, there is somebody right now listening to this podcast, whether it's a first responder overseas, in the military, or a police or a firefighter, listen to it at midnight. They might be struggling with addiction. They might be struggling with PTSD, or just having a bad day because they got off a call of a child and they need help. You got 30 seconds. What are you going to tell them?
Man, the best thing I can ever tell anybody is, learn from my mistakes. When I went through a lot of dark crap, almost lost my wife, almost lost a childhood best friend, both in the same year, both on major holidays. I like an idiot, tucked tail, sheltered myself, secluded myself from everybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Dumbest thing I ever could have done. I'm an EMT. I'm a Marine. I know better than to sit there and shut down like that and whatnot. Don't do it. You're not alone. What you're feeling, you're not alone. You're not alone because you have support for whatever you're feeling, whatever you're facing and going through. There's somebody that's either been there and done that, or has done worse, or been through worse. Always keep your head up and reach out for help. It is not a sign of weakness, and I can't emphasize that enough. It is an absolute sign of strength to be able to reach out for help.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. Just let everybody know, if you go to the it's Burnt Out Network, or Burnt Out Podcast, goes to the same place.org. You send an email. We'll get back to you real quick if you need some help. You can dial 988. If you need some help. It's a suicide prevention line, mental health line. They don't trace your call. They don't do anything like that. You can go 741-741, do a text like that, and somebody will be there to help you. Also, on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, you can go to the burnoutnetwork.org. There's a support meeting at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at the worldwidepeersupport.org. There's support meetings there. But Daniel, like I said earlier, I might know what your answers on this one is, but you might have a new one for me. You're going through stuff, and stuff's happening, whatever it is. Is there something, a phrase, a quote, or a verse that resonates in your mind that gives you strength to keep you going?
So I've got a few. In all honesty, I definitely have a few. Some work better in certain moments or what have you. One of them is absolutely carry on. One of them I have taken from Team Rubicon, which is GSD, which stands for Get Shit Done. Obviously, with the Marine Corps, embrace the suck. And then my life verse, I think ever since I probably stepped foot into a church and heard the verse, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That one's got me through a lot of mess. That got me through boot camp in 2006. I mean, I'm 125 pounds. I was 125 pounds when I stepped foot on Paris Island. I knew I was going to need something besides myself to get through that mess down there. So
that's cool, man. I like that.
It was just a pleasure meeting you, man. It sounds awesome, all the things that you're doing, and I'm glad to have heard part of your story. And Looking forward to getting to know you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to chat about Scotland and a bunch of other things. When you just say, when you go willing and say, I'll do whatever. I said, okay, he's mine.
I'm willing to be willing.
Man, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the show. Just remember, you're never alone. Don't believe that lie. When it comes in your mind, you think you're not worth it. You think you're alone. You think you lost. No, you haven't lost. You're more than a conqueror. You have won. Get a hold of us at burnoutnetwork.org. Send us an email. If you want to want something to do, we'll keep you busy. If you need some help, let us know. Remember, dial 998 or go 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Go to burnoutnetwork.org, and we got a support meeting. Or you go to worldwidepeersupport.org on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. There's support meetings for first responders. But we'd like to thank everybody for listening. Until now, do me a favor. Go home tonight, shut your scanner off, shut your phone off, and get some sleep. Thank you.